Are you interested in learning how to prepare delicious and healthy desserts? Well, stay tuned and we'll teach you how to do that. Hi, I'm Barbara Nolan, and I'd like to introduce to you Deb Cook from North Carolina that's here to demonstrate some wonderful, healthy desserts for us today.
Yes.
I can hardly wait.
I think every American's got a sweet tooth to greater or lesser degrees. So it's like, how do you meet that and still stay healthy? Well, that's what we're going to uncover today.
Wonderful. Well, what are we going to be making first?
Let's make a cheesecake. It's called Just Like Cheesecake, and
wonderful.
It's really good.
Okay. To make the cheesecake, for the crust you need 2 cups of raw macadamia nuts, 1/2 cup of dates pitted, 1/4 cup dried coconut, and for the cheese filling you use 3 cups of cashews, they're soaked and chopped, 3/4 cups of lemon juice, 3/4 cup of raw honey, 3/4 cup of coconut oil, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1/2 teaspoon of sun-dried sea salt, and 1/2 cup of water. And there's a raspberry sauce that you put on top, which is made with 1 bag of frozen raspberries and 1/2 cup of dates. Okay.
Great. I'm really anxious to show this one to our guests today. We're going to start with the crust, and it is very easy. Basically, it's nuts and dates.
It's got to be good.
It is. We do put a little bit of dried coconut just in the bottom of, this is a spring-form pan. So when we take it out, it'll set up really nice. So you just put that coconut on the bottom of the pan, and that's so it won't stick on the pan. So we're going to put the nuts, which is macadamia nuts. I was just a little bit short of 2 cups, so I did put some almonds in here. That works. Macadamia nuts, basically. And then this is the date paste, which is whipped up dates, of course, medjool dates, and the pits are taken out.
Okay.
So I'm just going to put that in here as well. And I'm going to break it up a little bit so it'll go right in the food processor easily. And now I'll put the lid on, and we'll just make this into crumbs.
Okay.
So we'll press it into the pie pan.
All right.
That should be good.
Should be a delicious, delicious crust to it.
Basically wanted to get the dates all dissipated through the nuts, so it'll press nicely in here. We'll put it into the pie pan. It has the consistency of a graham cracker crust, only this one's a little bit chunkier. Just press it down. You can make it finer than that if you want. This is going to be more of a coarse crust. Those dates make it stick in there pretty good. And you'll see the end product, we're going to actually freeze it, so that'll even make the crust a little bit firmer. Okay. And now we want to go on and make the filling, or the cheese, to the cheesecake. And I'm going to use the Vitamix here and put all the different ingredients in there.
All right.
And it'll blend it up. You can either use a food processor or a Vitamix. Either one, it does well. So the first is the 3 cups of chopped cashews. And I did soak these in water for an hour. They're a little easier to blend if they've been soaked. And there's some other good reasons, too, to soak your nuts before you do them. Makes them more digestible. It releases enzyme inhibitors. And it's just a good habit to get into, is soaking your nuts before you use them.
That's one thing I've learned today. Perhaps others out there are learning, too.
Okay. And then 3/4 cup of lemon juice right here. Put that in here. And in addition to that, we'll do the 3/4 cup honey.
Okay.
And we do use the raw honey. The less cooking involved and the more nutrients there is. Okay. It's a little bit sticky to work with, but it's worth it. And then also 3/4 cup of coconut oil. This actually solidified a little bit, but the Champion will have no problem blending it up.
They need a...
Actually, this got a little bit harder than it usually does, but I think we'll be able to hopefully manage that.
Yes.
In addition to the coconut oil, coconut butter, we'll put the 1 teaspoon of vanilla right here. And then the 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt there. And then the 1/2 cup of water. And that, believe it or not, is going to make a cheese for the cheesecake. I don't know how many people have made anything like this before, but it's interesting.
A different concept, huh?
Right. Let's put the lid on. It's a rubber lid, so you have to catch it under both sides. Okay. And the nuts, since they've been soaked, are relatively easy. I usually pulse it a little bit first to get all the ingredients very well mixed together, and then I'll leave it on. Push them down a little bit, and then we'll leave it on. It's important to get it very smooth.
Yes, I would think.
And that's what I love about this machine is with that high-powered motor, it does it quicker. Now, if you had just a regular blender, you probably have to leave it on 2-3 times as long as we did with this. Okay, I'm going to pour this cheese right into the crust. It's pretty thick.
Yes, doing this vegan cooking is kind of important to invest in a good blender.
It is. I use the
You have to blend so
blender
much.
and the food processor quite a bit at home. Let me change hands here. You have to really get all the batter from underneath the blade in there. And this is very rich batter, so you don't want to waste any if you can. And this really does satisfy the sweet tooth, and it has good eye appeal too when it's all finished. People usually think, well, if I get on the healthy diet, I can never have cheesecake again, among other things. And they're so happy we run the Lifestyles Dinner, and when people come and say, you mean we can have cheesecake? I said, there's a lot of really good tasting recipes that you can make on the vegan diet as long as you know what to substitute for what.
Well, it's so nice to have someone share recipes, because that is the dilemma you have when you're wanting to start to cook this way. You think, oh my man, you want to change the way you eat, but you need recipes.
And don't know where to start. And also, it's nice to know how to set up your cupboards and have what ingredients on hand.
True.
I'm just going to spread this cheese right here in this. This is a springform pan. And once we put it in the freezer, it will harden. And then you take it out about an hour before you serve it, so it will thaw but still hold its form very well. I have gloves on so I can do this. And then we're not going to actually make the sauce, but all you do is in a blender blend dates and frozen raspberries together. And then you can swirl it on top if you want.
Beautiful sauce.
Isn't it beautiful? I think God's foods are so beautiful. Lots of color, and once you get used to eating this way, it's like you really don't want to go back to the old way. But there is somewhat of a conversion in the taste buds and the thinking and everything. So you can make this solid over the top if you want, or kind of marbleize it. You could also do this, Barbara, with blueberries.
That would be excellent too.
And I've never made it with blackberries, but I certainly don't know why you wouldn't be able to, just about any berry.
Yeah, probably strawberries maybe.
There you go.
Might be thinner though.
Yeah, you just add a little more dates if you want to thicken it up.
That looks delicious.
So then we're going to go put this in the freezer and freeze it for about 8 hours. And then after that, take it out, let it thaw for an hour, and you're ready to serve it.
Fantastic. That's going to be a recipe your family and company will love.
It's pretty rich, but it's good.
So what are we going to make next?
Well, next we're going to look into the Easy Mint Carob Pudding Pie.
Ooh, that sounds good.
And the ingredients are, for the crust, 1 cup almonds, 1 cup of pecans, 1 cup of walnuts, and then 1.5 cups of medjool dates pitted, and 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And for the filling, we'll use 2 ripe avocados, 1/2 cup maple syrup, 2 teaspoons psyllium, 1/2 cup carob powder, and 2 to 3 drops of mint.
Well, this is interesting, Bev. You're using avocados to make a pie?
Yes, it's a new thought for most people.
Yes. I'm sure it's good though. So what do we do here?
Well, like other recipes, why don't we start with the crust first?
Okay.
And this one has 3 different types of nuts. It has a cup of each type of nut. Here's the cup of almonds. And we're using it in a food processor with the S-blade. That blends things really well. And then a cup of pecans, top of that. And then also a cup of walnuts. Actually, they want us to blend the first few nuts into a flour and then add the others. So let's do that. So you just get real fine till it's almost a flour consistency. Then I'll add the cup of walnuts here. And I'm going to add the salt and the vanilla as well. It's the sea salt. And then the vanilla. Okay. There you go. I'm going to blend that up a little bit, and then I'll add the dates last. Just zip this through the food processor 1 or 2 times. Now, if we put it in the pie pan just as is, it'd be too powdery. There's nothing to bind it together. So I'm using the date paste, which is pre-softened dates with the pits taken out, and then that'll cause all this nuts and other ingredients to stick together.
So you actually buy that as a paste?
And I buy a lot of these ingredients from Country Life Natural Foods. And they have the date paste. It's very reasonable, too. I always keep an eye on the batter to make sure all the big pieces are
See the texture?
chopped. Yes, and see the texture both. So that looks pretty good. Now this is a small pie. You could eat it just like that. I guess. It's a small pie pan here, but I'm going to push this down, and it'll be just fine. I hate to waste any of these nuts. You want to get them down to the last.
It smells really good too.
Now, you know, some people, and we're only supposed to eat nuts sparingly because they're a little bit high in fat, but we don't actually eat nuts as a snack per se because I do use them in cooking a lot, cooking and food preparation. So these meals are so concentrated with nutrients, and fiber that it holds you. The meals do. Of course, you know, this pie isn't going to be a meal in and of itself. This would be your dessert. And we only have a dessert maybe once a week. And then, of course, at holidays, we like to make things special. But because we do use nuts in some of our dressings and our cheeses that we make, and now this crust, that's going to be good enough. We don't have to have any other nuts for snacks. And we use all kinds of nuts, pine nuts, almonds, macadamia nuts, you know, but we do use them in a raw form. We don't do the roasted and salted ones. Okay, I'm trying to make a little well in there for the filling. And if you had another favorite filling in here, you could use that. And that's actually will firm up once it's in the refrigerator. Okay?
Yes.
Why don't we move on to the filling now?
Okay.
And people always ask, what is your secret ingredient? And just to be upfront, it's the avocados. So let's start with the 2 large ripe avocados. And you always know they're ripe when they give a little.
Yeah.
Have you worked with avocados very much?
Yes, quite a bit. I love avocados.
These are the Hass avocados. Now there's the big Florida avocados, which would be nice for this recipe because it has a lot of avocado flesh. But the Hass really have a little more taste, in my opinion. So we open those up.
I make guacamole a lot, but I've never used them to make a pie filling.
Oh, okay.
So this will be new, something new for me to try with them.
This is the cream part of the pudding. Cream. And of course, avocados don't have a real strong taste, so the other ingredients are going to override the avocado taste, and that's why people don't even know it's in there. It basically gives its texture.
Nice, creamy.
And shiny. So let's take the pits out of these. Do that pit out in this. Those are nice and ripe. And that's exactly what you want. Put these in here. This is another pie that's fairly rich, so when you're served it, usually people would prefer just to have a slice, you know, because it's rich, but still, these are good, healthy pies. And it's nice to be able to eat a dessert and not have a guilty conscience or have that anchored feeling after a meal. And you just feel very satisfied. And I think that's the way the Lord intended it, just to be satisfying. So that's the avocado. And after the avocado, we're going to put the ½ cup of maple syrup in here. That will give it a lot of shine. If for some reason you're diabetic or whatever and can't use maple syrup, you can use some dates. Depends on how sensitive the diabetic is. But if you have plenty of fiber, often they can tolerate it.
Really?
Okay. And then in addition to that, we'll put the 2 teaspoons of psyllium right here. And that is also a thickener, psyllium. And then the 1/2 cup of carob powder. This is a very healthy ingredient. It's very high in calcium.
Oh, really?
And people often are looking for some good calcium source. So now we'll blend these together, and I'll add the 2 or 3 drops of peppermint oil after I get this going. Okay. We'll snap the rubber top on. There we go. That's a very important step.
Yes, we don't need it flinging around everywhere, do we?
Tamper in, and this tamper won't hit the blades because of this. So here we go. I'll put the peppermint in.
Okay, that looks very dark and rich.
Yes, if you
I think
want
I'm going to like this.
I'm just putting about 3 drops in here. If you want a more like a milk chocolate looking pie, you could even cut your carob in half. I'm going to mix this a little more and then we'll pour it in here.
Okay.
All right, I think that should do it. And then we'll pour it in there and we'll be finished with this recipe. You could just use the carob as a pudding if you wanted, if you didn't really want to put it into the crust. Doesn't pour real easy because of that psyllium.
I smell the mint.
Can you?
Yeah, smells good.
And we'll spread it out once I get it out of here. You could even use spearmint if you wanted, but I like the peppermint. You usually think of peppermint with chocolate, or in this case, carob. You could find some little mint leaves for a garnish on top if you wanted.
That would be pretty.
Now, I've found that if you have on hand a few healthy desserts or snack items that are good for you, it's much easier to get off of sugar. That you need to find a few that you like and have them always on hand. And then they're not addictive like the other types are, which is a big plus.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so we just spread that around. Like that, and
I'm sure there's a lot of chocoholics out there that
yes, that would appreciate
that would
this.
appreciate that. Yes.
Okay, that's basically it.
Oh well, it looks delicious.
Good.
And what are we going to do next?
I think our final one is the Raspberry Dream Date Nut Torte.
Ooh, that sounds delicious. Okay, to make the Raspberry Dream Date Nut Torte, you use 2 cups of walnuts, 2 cups of organic raisins, and for the torte frosting, you use 1 cup of dates and 1/2 lemon juiced. Okay, Bev, let's make our raspberry torte.
Okay, I've already had a good start on it, Barbara. All I did was I blended together, actually I put in a food processor the walnuts and the raisins, and it made the base of the torte. And you just blend it until it looks very pliable. And now I'm going to put dates. This is the date paste again. I'm really big on that. And then the lemon juice of 1/2 a lemon and dates in here. Break it up a little bit and blend it together. That's pretty easy.
Yes.
Walnuts are also good for depression. Have you heard that?
No, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah.
Well,
So here we go. Wasn't a whole lot of batter in there, so I'm going to press that down a little bit into the blades again.
well, I guess if walnuts are good for depression, a lot of Americans need to start.
They
eating
do.
walnuts.
They do. Well, I think they're mixed in there. Now it's just a matter of getting it out, and you just use this kind of like a frosting on the top of the torte.
Okay.
Here. Dates in anything are good, actually. And then the last thing after I spread this on is put the raspberries on. And you can chill it a little. It'll firm up once you chill it. It's a little bit hard to work with a knife or even a spreader, so I use the gloved hands. That date paste is a wonderful product. Okay, now I'll just put a few raspberries on top. Put a few. And of course, you know, if you're artistic, you can arrange them beautifully.
Well, it looks wonderful.
There
But it
you
is
go.
time for us to take a short break, and we'll come back to show you our finished products.
We hope you've enjoyed today's program with Bev Cook. Now let's take a moment to review our raw desserts recipes. Just like cheesecake, for the crust you'll need 2 cups raw macadamia nuts or almonds, 1/2 cup dates pitted, 1/4 cup dried coconut. For the cheese you'll need 3 cups chopped cashews soaked for an hour, 3/4 cup lemon juice, 3/4 cup raw honey, 3/4 cup coconut oil, 1 teaspoon vanilla, and 1/2 sun-dried sea salt. For raspberry sauce, you'll need 1 bag frozen raspberries and 1/2 cup of dates. For our easy mint carob pudding pie, for the crust you'll need 1 cup of almonds, 1 cup pecans, 1 cup walnuts, 1 1/2 cup medjool dates pitted, 1/2 teaspoon sea salt, and 1 teaspoon vanilla. For the filling, you'll need 2 large ripe avocados, 1/2 maple syrup, 1 teaspoon psyllium, 1/2 cup carob powder, and 2 to 3 drops of mint. For your raspberry dream date nut torte, for the torte you'll need 2 cups of walnuts and 2 cups of organic raisins. Your filling will be 1 cup of dates and 1/2 lemon juiced. If you'd like to contact Bev Cook, please call 3ABN at 1-800-752-3226 for more information, or write us at 3ABN, Post Office Box 220, West Frankfort, Illinois 62896. Now let's take a look at our finished recipes with Bev.
Welcome back. Bev, would you like to show us the finished product?
I would be glad to. The first one we started was with the Just Like Cheesecake. It's made with a lot of cashews, so it's rich with nuts, but it sure is tasty. And then when we finished making that, we went into the Easy Carob Pudding Pie. You can make this pudding by itself or in a crust like we did, and that's beautiful for company. It has nice eye appeal.
Yes, it does.
And then the last one we made was the raspberry nut date torte. And that's very easy too. You know, it's just a matter of blending and then putting your berries on top. It's a really good recipe, Barbara. And as long as you don't sit down and eat the whole pie, it's really not fattening. And 1 piece will keep you satisfied for hours. And that applies for all these pies.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bev, for coming and demonstrating these wonderful desserts for us. And I want to invite you to come back and watch with us next time, and let's cook together.